Ladies and gentlemen, the year doesn't change you. The date doesn't transform your reality. A new calendar is not a new life unless you take the weight of that opportunity on your back like a cross and decide to carry it. 2025 is not your answer unless you become the answer. And I'm telling you now, not next week, not next month, that the mindset you build this year, this very moment, will shape the decade. Not just the day. You see, transformation isn't about fireworks at midnight. It's about fire in the soul at dawn. It's not about writing down goals you forget by February. It's about writing a new law inside your being and living by it with the kind of intensity that makes weakness scream. You don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to suffer for, organize for, and persist through. The modern world wants ease, but greatness lives in difficulty. It hides in the uncomfortable. It reveals itself in chaos, and only those disciplined enough to create order within themselves ever reach the place where peace and power meet. So many are waiting for a sign, but if you're waiting, you're losing. If you're hesitating, you're decaying. Life doesn't pause because you're not ready. The game moves. And those who decide to play it with purpose, those who face the dragon willingly, who stop pretending they're victims of circumstance, those are the ones who become capable of creating a life that commands respect without ever asking for it. You must understand this. Potential means nothing without order. Desire means nothing without discipline, and emotion, left unchecked, is just a tyrant in disguise. The mindset of 2025 is not soft. It's not fragile. It doesn't need approval. It is forged in silence under pressure in the furnace of daily decision making. It wakes up before the world applauds, and it keeps moving when applause disappears. It doesn't chase happiness. It chases meaning, and meaning only comes when you orient yourself toward responsibility, not what you want, what you must do, what you can bear, and then, stretch a little further, what you were born to carry, though the weight may crush your former self. You want freedom, earn it. You want success, sacrifice for it. You want to rise, then kill the part of you that loves comfort more than destiny. Because the truth is, your comfort zone is not your friend. It's your coffin. It's the slow death of every dream that once whispered to you when you were still young enough to believe. And now it's war. A quiet internal war. Between what's easy and what's necessary. Between who you've been and who you must become. You see, most people are running from struggle, but those who grow, they run toward it, because they understand something vital, that suffering is the architect of identity. That hardship is not an enemy, but a sculptor. The chisel is pain, and the masterpiece is discipline. You want to be someone others look to when storms hit. Then be the one who learns to walk straight when the winds howl, not the one who folds under pressure and blames the weather. 2025 is not about hype. It's not about inspiration that fades. It's about structure. It's about building a fortress around your mind so that when failure knocks, when doubt comes whispering, they find no place to sleep. Most people set goals. Few build systems. And without a system, goals are wishes. Systems are what you fall back on when motivation dies. And it will die, often. But your system, your daily rhythm, your habits, that's what revives you. Let me tell you the hard truth. You are far more capable than the life you're currently tolerating. Not because the world owes you something, it doesn't, but because the human being, rightly aimed, rightly disciplined, rightly structured, is a force that no obstacle can defeat long term. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how structured your strategy is, how precise your plan is, how relentless your implementation is. That's the mindset we carry into 2025. Precision over passion. Clarity over chaos. Action over emotion. You've been distracted. You've been passive. You've let days pass without force. But now is the time to tighten, to lock in, to become a surgeon with your time and a soldier with your focus. Stop wasting hours on what feeds weakness. Start investing minutes into what builds a life you're proud to live. Regret is heavier than failure and far more persistent. You will not remember the comfort you preserved. You'll remember the courage you abandoned. Do you understand what's at stake? It's not just your progress. It's your identity. Every time you skip the workout, avoid the difficult conversation, postpone the hard decision, you're not just delaying success. You're telling your psyche that comfort is king, that challenge is to be avoided, and that pain is a signal to retreat. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is the path, the narrow road, the refining fire. The test, and only those who endure it become who they were meant to be. So what do? You confront the mirror with honesty. You stop lying to yourself about effort. You take inventory of your habits, your thoughts, your surroundings, and you destroy what's weak. Burn the excuses, bury the distractions, begin again not with wishful thinking but with a blueprint, not with motivation but with architecture. Because if you build it right, if you lay the foundation deep and set the walls with integrity, storms will come and they won't move you. Because you've already moved yourself from chaos to order, from victimhood to leadership, from emotion to structure. You want others to believe in you, then become someone worth believing in, not through words but through patterns. Through consistency, through repetition, you cannot demand respect. You must become undeniable, unshakable. That means every morning you wake with intention. Every evening you review with honesty. You track your habits like a scientist. You attack your goals like a general. You don't just live. You lead your mind, your body, your choices. You do not hope, you execute. You do not react, you respond. Everyone wants to change, but few want to do what change demands. They want the reward, but not the system. They chase the energy of motivation, but ignore the weight of responsibility. And that's why they fall short. That's why their lives become a loop of good intentions and bad execution. Because they never learned that transformation doesn't happen in moments of passion, but in the structure that passion gets funneled into. Structure is what turns an emotional high into a disciplined life. It's what separates those who try from those who become. People have been sold a lie. They've been told that if they feel it strong enough, if they believe it hard enough, then things will just start to align. But belief without a framework is like fire with no containment. It burns out quickly or destroys everything. You can be inspired, but if you don't have the blueprint to sustain it, the fire becomes ashes. Inspiration may start the engine, but structure is what keeps the vehicle moving forward when the road gets steep and long. When the emotions die down, and they will, what's left? The answer is your system. Your daily rituals, your structure. Most people set goals. Very few set systems. And that's the difference between momentum and mediocrity. You can aim high, but if your day is scattered, if your time is mismanaged, if your habits are uncontrolled, then your ambition becomes a burden instead of a blessing. You don't rise to your dreams, you fall to your systems. That's why change isn't just about willpower, it's about architecture. You have to become a builder of your own transformation. You have to be intentional about how you construct your days, because your days are the blocks that build your future. Discipline is the structure that gives your life direction. It's the frame that holds everything in place when emotions try to tear it down. And without discipline, your potential collapses under the weight of inconsistency. It's not that people aren't capable. It's that they haven't decided to organize their capabilities. They've never turned desire into duty, and until that shift happens, they'll keep cycling between inspiration and regret. There's nothing more tragic than a capable person with no structure, because capability without structure becomes anxiety. It becomes frustration. It becomes a life that could have been but never was. You want change? Then stop depending on how you feel and start depending on what you do every single day, without fail, without excuse. Build a system so solid that even on your worst day, you're still progressing. That means waking up with a plan, not just a wish. That means removing things that distract and building in things that develop. That means designing your life like it matters because it does. Every moment you waste is a piece of your future you're throwing away. Structure is not confinement, it's freedom, because once you build it, you're no longer a slave to emotion, procrastination, or chaos. There are people waiting for motivation to strike again, like lightning. They sit idle, hoping for a surge of energy or a fresh wave of clarity. But lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot unless you've built something there that attracts it. And that's what structure does. It creates a place for progress to live, a home for discipline, a rhythm for resilience. So even when motivation disappears, your actions don't. Even when you're tired, you still move. Even when the world goes silent, your system speaks. Loudly, clearly, consistently. Structure gives you something emotion never can: predictability. When your life is structured, you don't wonder what to do next. You don't waste time choosing between distraction and purpose. You've already chosen, you've pre-decided, and that decision becomes the rhythm of your life. Because habits, once set, don't ask for your opinion. They just run. They just operate. That's the beauty of structure. It doesn't care how you feel. It just executes. That's how you remove inconsistency. You remove the question of whether or not you'll do it. You make it automatic. That's how transformation becomes permanent. We've glorified inspiration. We've put it on a pedestal, but the truth is, inspiration is weak compared to structure. Anyone can be inspired in a moment. Few can build when there's no applause. Few can organize their life with such discipline that their success becomes inevitable. You don't need hype. You need habit. You don't need a perfect plan. You need consistent effort. Stop thinking you'll change when the timing feels right. The right time is the moment you decide to build, not just believe. Because transformation doesn't respond to feelings, it responds to action. Real change isn't loud, it's quiet. It's hidden in routines, in repetition, in choosing the right thing when no one's watching. It's found in the boring stuff: waking up early, journaling, training, reading, executing. That's where the war is won. Not on stage, not in front of a crowd, in your room, in your mind, in the dark, when no one's there to celebrate you. You build structure not for the spotlight, but for the shadows, because that's where greatness is formed. That's where character is forged. Some think structure kills creativity, that it limits freedom. But that's only true if the structure is designed poorly. Real structure creates space. It gives you clarity. It gives you margin. It eliminates the noise and allows you to focus fully on what matters. Without structure, your mind is chaos. With structure, your life becomes intentional. Every choice, every action, every step starts to align with something bigger. That's how you build momentum, not by accident, but by design. Your future is not created by once in a lifetime events. It's built in the grind of daily discipline, and that discipline needs a container. It needs a foundation. That's what structure is. It's the unseen architecture of a visible transformation. And the stronger your structure, the more pressure you can handle, the more storms you can endure, because life will hit you hard. But if your structure is strong, you don't break, you bend, you adjust. You recalibrate, and then you keep moving forward. That's what separates the ones who dream from the ones who do. If you want to change your life in 2025, don't wait for inspiration. Build a system. Build a structure so strong, so refined, that it doesn't matter how you feel on any given day. You show up anyway. You execute anyway. You build anyway. And in time, you'll look back and realize the version of you that once needed motivation has become the version that creates results on command. Not because life got easier, but because your structure got stronger. Responsibility is not a burden. It's the birthplace of identity. Until you take ownership of your actions, your outcomes, and the state of your life, you remain a stranger to yourself. You remain an echo of the world, shaped by external forces rather than a force in your own right. People walk around hoping to discover who they are, as if identity is a hidden treasure buried somewhere out there, waiting to be stumbled upon. But identity isn't found, it's built, and the raw material is responsibility. When you take responsibility, you begin the process of carving yourself out of the chaos around you. You set boundaries, you impose order. You define who you are not just by words, but by the weight you're willing to carry. Nothing clarifies who you are more than what you're willing to be accountable for. The moment you say, "This is mine to fix, mine to solve, mine to carry," you stop being a victim and start becoming a leader. Not of others, but of yourself. That shift is the foundation of every meaningful transformation. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with recognition. It comes with a quiet resolve, a silent contract you make with yourself to stop outsourcing your life to luck, to circumstance, or to others. Responsibility is the heavy door that leads to freedom, and the key to that door is choice. But not just any choice. The kind of choice that demands consequence. The kind that requires sacrifice, because real responsibility doesn't come without cost. It demands effort, it demands discomfort, and it demands consistency. And yet, in that very demand, it offers you something priceless. It offers you clarity, it offers you direction, it offers you purpose. Without responsibility, your life is like a boat without a rudder, tossed by the waves of emotion and opinion. But when you decide to take responsibility, you grip the wheel. You may not control the storm, but you control your course. People want confidence, but they forget where it comes from. It's not given. It's earned, and it's earned through the daily act of showing up for what you said you would do. Responsibility is what forges confidence. Every time you follow through on your duties, every time you choose discipline over impulse, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And that's where self-respect is born. It's not about affirmations, it's about action. If you want to respect yourself, then carry more than your comfort. Carry what's difficult. Carry what's essential. Carry what others avoid. You want to change your self-image. Don't wait for a breakthrough. Start with a burden. Take something hard and make it yours. Not because it's your fault, but because it's your future. That's the turning point, the shift from blaming the world to building yourself. The moment you stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Why not me?" that's when identity begins to take shape. Because in that choice, you move from a passive observer of life to an active author. And identity isn't what you say you are. It's what you prove yourself to be under pressure, under trial, under the weight of responsibility. Look at the people you admire, not the ones who talk the loudest, but the ones who live with integrity. What sets them apart isn't luck. It's the level of responsibility they've embraced. They've taken on more than was required. They've stood when it was easier to sit. They've leaned in when others backed out. And in doing so, they became something rare, something stable, something others could rely on. And that's the paradox. By choosing to carry more, you become stronger. Responsibility doesn't weaken you. It reveals your strength. It pulls your potential out of hiding. And here's the truth most people avoid. Your life is a reflection of what you've been willing to take responsibility for. If your relationships are broken, if your health is failing, if your goals are stagnant, those aren't just accidents. They're indicators. They point to areas where responsibility has been avoided, where blame has been easier than change. And until you're willing to own every area of your life, even the painful parts, you'll remain stuck. Not because change is impossible, but because avoidance makes it invisible. You can't fix what you won't face. And you won't face what you haven't claimed. There's a quiet dignity in responsibility. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't crave applause. It simply works. It rises early. It stays late. It honors its commitments. And through that silent, steady work, it builds something unshakable. It builds a foundation, and on that foundation, character is built, discipline is built, confidence is built, identity is built, one brick at a time. One hard choice after another, and you begin to see the pattern. Responsibility isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming more. Every time you dodge responsibility, you trade power for comfort. But power is never found in comfort. It's found in the trenches, in the late nights and early mornings, in the conversations you'd rather avoid, in the discipline you'd rather not practice. That's where real identity is forged. Not in ease, but in effort. Not in theory, but in the act of rising to the occasion. And that's what this era demands. Not people who wait to be told what to do, but people who see what needs to be done and make it their mission. Not because it's required, but because it's right. So many are looking for clarity, for direction, for purpose, but they're looking outward when the answer has always been inward. Take responsibility for one thing, and the fog begins to lift. Take responsibility for another, and the path begins to reveal itself. Keep doing it, and you realize you don't find your purpose. You create it with your choices, with your discipline, with the burdens you choose to carry. And the more you carry, the more capable you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Responsibility teaches you something that books can't, that lectures won't, that speeches don't. It teaches you who you are, not who you wish you were, who you are under pressure, who you are when no one is watching, who you are when the excuses are easy but the right thing is hard. That's identity. That's what lasts when everything else fades, not the mask, not the title, not the image, but the core, the part of you that can't be bought or broken, and it is responsibility that chisels that core into form. Most are living with a vague sense of frustration because they haven't accepted that life demands sacrifice. And until you sacrifice your comfort, your entitlement, your excuses, you'll never touch your potential. Responsibility is the gate. It's narrow, it's heavy, but it leads somewhere real, somewhere solid. It leads to a version of yourself that doesn't need to be reminded to act with purpose, because purpose has become your nature. Not something you chase, but something you live. The way forward isn't more inspiration. It's more responsibility. And with every step you take in that direction, your identity stops being something you wonder about and starts becoming something you embody. Fully, clearly, unshakably, discomfort is misunderstood. It's been labeled as the enemy, as something to be escaped, something to be softened or avoided. But in truth, discomfort is the most honest teacher you'll ever have. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need, and that's why people run from it, because it confronts them with reality, not fantasy. But the deeper truth is this: discomfort is not the obstacle to growth, it's the path to it. The very thing most avoid is the very thing that will shape them into someone worthy of the life they're chasing. There's this belief that the goal is comfort, that success means ease, that once you've made it, life becomes soft and predictable. But that belief is poison. It ruins ambition, it weakens spirit. It creates people who are capable of greatness but settle for comfort. The people who evolve, the ones who break past limits, the ones who actually change their lives. They don't avoid discomfort. They pursue it, they lean into it, not recklessly but intentionally, because they've learned that every step forward is paved with pressure, that resistance is not punishment, it's preparation. If you ever feel pain when you're pushing forward, don't pull back. Pay attention, because pain is a signal, not always a warning, but often an invitation. It's the body's and mind's way of saying, this is the edge, now grow. Discomfort introduces you to your limits so you can challenge them. It shows you where you're weak so you can build strength. Without it, you remain stagnant. You remain soft. You remain exactly where you are, trapped in the illusion that ease equals happiness, when in fact it equals decay. Everyone wants to feel good. Everyone wants to be confident, calm, unshaken. But the path to those things runs directly through discomfort. Confidence isn't built by avoiding challenge. It's built by surviving it. By showing up again and again in the places that test you. Calm isn't given to you. It's earned in chaos. You want strength, then face what scares you. You want wisdom, then endure what confuses you. Discomfort is the initiation fee, and most won't pay it, which is why most never evolve. You must learn to see discomfort not as a sign to stop, but a sign you're on the right track. Growth is not supposed to feel safe. Change is not meant to be comfortable. The process of becoming someone new requires you to be uncomfortable in your current self. That friction, that restlessness, is the signal, and when you stop fearing it, when you stop trying to numb it or run from it, you start learning from it. Discomfort, when met with attention and responsibility, becomes the compass that points directly at the next version of you. We've been conditioned to crave comfort. It's everywhere. Convenience, shortcuts, hacks, tools to avoid the necessary friction. But all they do is steal the character that discomfort could have built. Every time you take the easy route, you trade long-term power for short-term relief. You stay the same. You become more fragile, not more free. And the next time pressure hits, you have even less ability to handle it. Discomfort trains you to carry more. It expands your tolerance. It makes your baseline stronger. That's why discipline is always uncomfortable in the beginning. Waking up early, working out when you're tired, sitting in silence instead of scrolling, saying no to what feeds the ego. All of it feels hard at first. But that's the point. It's supposed to. And as you keep doing it, the discomfort becomes normal. The edge becomes your home, and from that place, you start to realize something profound. You don't need life to get easier. You just need to get stronger, and discomfort is the training ground. Avoiding discomfort is like avoiding resistance in the gym. You can lift light and never sweat, but you'll never grow. Your strength lies in the strain, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's the same pattern. You face resistance, and if you face it willingly and consistently, you build capacity. And eventually, what once broke you now bends beneath you. What once overwhelmed you becomes your warm-up. That's the reward of discomfort. Not just progress, but proof. Proof that you're becoming someone different, someone better. Discomfort also reveals what matters. When you face hardship, when you walk through pain and pressure, your values become clearer. Your priorities shift. You stop chasing what's flashy and start pursuing what's foundational. You start building instead of performing. You stop looking for validation and start seeking alignment. Discomfort strips away illusion. It shows you what's real. It tests your values. It asks you who you are when things don't go your way, when life doesn't clap for you, when nothing comes easy. That's the moment identity starts to form. That's where real belief is forged. There's power in voluntarily walking toward discomfort. When you choose challenge, you take control. You signal to your mind and body that you are not prey. You are a builder, a creator, a leader, and that mindset shapes your identity. When you do hard things on purpose, the hard things that life throws at you no longer destroy you. You've trained. You've conditioned yourself to face pressure with composure. And in doing so, you become someone others look to when things fall apart. Not because you're fearless, but because you've learned to act in the presence of fear. That's what discomfort teaches. Not avoidance, not denial, but courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move through it, to feel it and still act. Discomfort introduces you to fear, and in doing so, it gives you the opportunity to build bravery. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to learn to walk beside it, to make it a companion, not a captor. And that relationship is only built through exposure, through pressure, through choosing the hard road again and again, until your soul becomes immune to the shallow seduction of ease. People want meaning in their life, but they avoid the suffering that gives life depth. Meaning is found when you endure something difficult for a purpose greater than your ego. That's where fulfillment lies. Not in doing what feels good, but in doing what matters, especially when it hurts, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when you'd rather quit. That's when character is being written. In the moments you push past comfort and plant your flag in discipline. When you look back at your life, the moments you're proud of won't be the ones that were easy. They'll be the ones you almost gave up but didn't. The workouts you finished when your legs screamed. The conversations you had when silence was safer. The days you showed up when motivation was gone. That's your real self being built, not the image, not the version you show online, but the core, the one that doesn't bend in chaos, the one that's been through discomfort so many times it no longer fears it. And that's the shift. You stop fearing discomfort. You start respecting it. You start seeing it as the tool it is, a scalpel that cuts away weakness, a forge that burns away illusion, a mirror that reflects your potential, not in fantasy, but in fire. And in walking that path daily, you stop asking for life to be easier. You start asking for the strength to rise, the strength to endure, the strength to lead, not just yourself, but others, because discomfort is not the obstacle. It's the door, and on the other side is the version of you this world has been waiting for. You don't become what you think about. You don't become what you talk about. You become what you consistently do. That's the truth most people overlook while chasing some version of success in their minds. They speak about their dreams, they feel inspired by their goals, they visualize the life they want. But when you strip all of that away, only one thing remains: your behavior. And not the behavior you perform once or twice when you're excited, but the habits you execute daily without excuse. That's where identity is formed. That's where transformation begins. Repetition is the sculptor of character, and consistency is its chisel. If you wake up every morning and train your body changes. If you write every day, your voice becomes clearer. If you study deeply and often, your understanding sharpens. And if you avoid challenge, give in to weakness, and drift into distraction every day, you don't become unlucky. You become undisciplined. The results in your life aren't random. They are the reflection of your rituals. You don't need to wonder who you're becoming. Just look at your daily patterns. They are painting your future in real time. People try to change their lives with intensity, with big, bold actions fueled by temporary emotion. But intensity fades. Life will knock you off that emotional high within days. That's why the gym is packed in January and empty by March. That's why resolutions fail and dreams dissolve. Because transformation doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to consistency. The daily grind, the silent effort, the small, repeated acts of discipline that seem insignificant in the moment, but compound into something powerful over time, those are the bricks that build greatness. Consistency doesn't just shape your skill, it shapes your self-image. Every time you do what you said you would do, you're voting for the version of yourself you want to become. And every time you break that promise, even silently, you erode belief in who you are. That's why it's so critical to be careful with what you repeat, because repeated behavior becomes identity. You may think your habits are just actions, but they're actually declarations. They are you telling the world and your subconscious, "This is who I am," and the mind listens. It keeps a record. It's not interested in your dreams or your words, it's watching your patterns. If you consistently quit, it learns that quitting is what you do. If you consistently avoid discomfort, it believes discomfort is danger. But if you show up even when you don't feel like it, even when no one's watching, the mind adapts to that version of you. It starts to build a foundation of trust, and that trust turns into confidence, not through hype, but through history. The history of effort, the history of follow through. There's a price to pay for greatness, and that price is paid daily, not in giant, dramatic gestures, but in showing up to the process with relentless repetition. If you want to be mentally tough, practice it. If you want to be resilient, stay consistent when life hits you. If you want to be a person of integrity, don't just say what you value, live it out over and over again until it becomes automatic. Identity is not about what you feel. It's about what you repeat. It's not what you wish. It's what you do without negotiation. You can't cheat repetition. You can't fake consistency. The scoreboard of life doesn't care about your intentions. It tracks your habits. The hours you've put in, the reps you've completed, the things you've done behind the scenes when motivation was gone and the spotlight was off, that's what counts. That's what builds a life worth living. You don't arrive at your goals. You grow into them one habit at a time. There's no elevator to excellence, only a staircase, and every step is labeled with the word repeat. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions because they're not immediately gratifying. They're looking for quick returns, instant feedback, emotional highs. But the truth is, most of what truly matters in life is built in silence. It's boring, it's repetitive, it's done without applause. But that's where the real work is. That's where you separate the talkers from the builders, the ones who show up once from the ones who show up always. Repetition is not glamorous, but it is undefeated. The habits you set today will either build you or break you tomorrow. If you consistently seek growth, you will grow. If you consistently avoid pain, you will weaken. If you consistently push past your limits will expand. If you consistently stay where it's comfortable, life will shrink to match your unwillingness. And the truth is, no one else sets your ceiling. You do, not by what you say, but by what you practice. And if you want a higher ceiling, raise your standards. Not once, but every day. Consistency requires clarity. You can't stay consistent if you don't know what you're aiming at. That's why you have to define your priorities. You have to create routines that reinforce your values. You have to remove what distracts and reinforce what builds, and that means making hard choices. That means saying no to the impulses that rob your future. Because every repeated compromise becomes a pattern, and every pattern becomes a personality. You don't wake up disciplined. You shape discipline through countless small decisions made with intentionality. Your future self is watching your present actions. It's being built by them. Every skipped workout, every broken promise, every wasted hour, it leaves a mark. And every completed task, every hour of study, every moment of pushing through discomfort, that leaves a mark too. Which ones are you carving deeper? Which ones are becoming your default setting? You're either reinforcing strength or reinforcing weakness. There is no neutral, there is only direction. Every action is a vote. Every repetition is a step. And the question is, are you stepping toward the version of you that you respect? People say they don't have time. But time isn't the issue. Commitment is, direction is, intention is. Everyone has time. They just haven't made consistency a priority, because consistency isn't about perfection. It's about return. Returning to the plan after a setback. Returning to the grind after a failure. Returning to the vision after life throws punches. It's the return that defines you, not the mistake, not the slip, but the choice to show up again and again and again until showing up becomes your nature. You become what you do daily, not what you hope for, not what you plan once a year, but what you wake up and act on when no one is forcing you. That's what transformation demands, not inspiration, but consistency, not motivation, but momentum, not fantasy, but focus. And that level of focus is only earned through repetition, not once, not twice, but endlessly, because you don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your pattern. So build the patterns that make the dream inevitable, then repeat them relentlessly, unapologetically, consistently,